Hey everybody, Bonehead the Bonehead Podcast, and welcome to Stock Up Sunday. This is our weekly show where we have a look at everything going on in the world of Blood Bowl for this week. So we're going to start off by Games Workshop articles, Games Workshop releases, and then if there is a 6 o'clock Sunday news burst, well, we'll definitely be covering that. But if there's not, we'll move on then and have a look at third-party teams, releases, miniatures, Kickstarters, and then we will finally land on the Bonehead Podcast shop and just talk through any new items that have landed this week. Now, this is the first of the month. This is the first week in April, which means it is a Patreon release heavy week. So we've got a few cool teams and cool new releases to look at for you. However, let's start with the Games Workshop news. We had a random article drop. Now, I saw one of these drop for Necromantic a few weeks ago, but they dropped a Touchline Tactics, how to play halflings in Blood Bowl, which is quite interesting. Now, I'm assuming they're doing these... Well, there was tactic articles in the Spike magazines, though. So I'm not really sure why they're doing them, but I think it's good to get more coverage for Blood Bowl, even when there's no releases, because actually what these articles can do is they can inspire coaches, inspire players to be like, actually, halflings are pretty good fun. Or, you know, Necromantic could be interesting, which is good. Now, as for content, there's not a huge amount in there that you won't already know, probably. But if you're starting out in Blood Bowl or you've never really come across this team, like they're doing this week, is halflings, then actually it's pretty good. They cover all the different positionals, the different models that are available, which is pretty useful. You've got some interesting skill up advice for your team. So if you're running halflings, it kind of goes so far as to recommend which skills you like. It's an interesting one, the Halfling Hefty. It just says, like, level them up the same way as you would a normal halfling, when actually we all know the secret is leader, right? Anyway, if you do want to know more about halflings, we've got some great videos, I think, some useful videos on the channel where we look at your dream teams, where you look at skill ups, where you look at actually what your team is supposed to be. But one thing in this article that I thought was really, really good is this bit here, and it covers the star players. So they've got a top 5 star players for halflings, which is pretty cool. So, number 1 is Griff, which makes yeah. Number 2 is Cindy, which is incredibly fair, being a bomber at 50k, and a new model that's coming out from Games Workshop. Deep Brute at 3, I think, is pretty fair. Puggy Bacon Breath at 4 is a good one. Puggy is going to be a kind of utilitarian one. Grombrundle is a really interesting one. Now, while the White Dwarf is a pretty cool and useful star player, I don't know if it's worth being in the top 5 of your halfling teams. I think the top 5 halfling star players, you're looking at Griff, you're looking at Deep Brute, you're definitely looking at Cindy these days. And then you kind of got to consider Carla. You've got to definitely consider Morg if you can afford him. There's your 5, with Rumbelow probably coming in 6th now. I love the White Dwarf, but I don't think he makes the top 5. But I still love the fact that they dropped this article. Nothing new, just actually showing that the game is kicking around and they haven't killed the game off, which is really good news because they also showed another star player. So when the Almanac dropped to the end of last year, there was a bunch of new star players, 8 new star players, I think. Drawl and Dribble, we've seen those, which is really cool. We've seen the Goblin star players. We're still waiting on Ripper. We're still waiting on, or up to now, both of the Nurgle star players that were showed off in the Almanac. And now, this week, we got to see Withergrasp Double Draw, which, I've got to say, is a pretty cool model. They've gone hard on the tentacles. The dude does have 2 heads, which fits with his rules. The really interesting thing about Withergrasp is you don't... To look at him, to look at his stats... It doesn't make any sense where he came from. He wasn't just a bloater. He wasn't just a beast man. He is just a dude of chaos that has been through the ringer when it comes to mutations. And I actually think it's a really cool model. Now, I'm not a massive fan of the rules for this guy. I think he's fine, but I don't think he's in the top picks. I think he's got a bit of tackle, a bit of wrestle, but he's Edge 4+, which means he's not a lot of use. Tentacles, Prehensile Tail, it makes him an interesting safety. So, it's all right. But I do like the model. They've taken the art, and they've done a brilliant job of just replicating it. Some choice photography angles there as well. And he gets dodge once a half when he's blocked, which is okay and an interesting little top-up of a skill. So, I mean, no massive Blood Bowl news. And again, I said this last week, and I'll probably say it next week too. I imagine the next releases for Blood Bowl that aren't just star players will come from Warhammer Fest. We're all hoping it's the next team, but you'd never know with Games Workshop. I mean, no one was expecting Dungeon Bowl, and they just dropped that. So it could be absolutely everything or anything. But at the moment, they're ticking over with the star players, and I think that's absolutely fine. Although, obviously, we're all looking forward to the next team. Anyway, that is everything from Games Workshop this week until maybe 6 o'clock, and then there's maybe stuff that happens after this bit of the video. I'm going to assume nothing happened, but it'd be very exciting if it did. So, talking of the next team for Blood Bowl, the next team for Blood Bowl is heavily rumoured to be vampires. Which means we're expecting roster fandangling. Okay, Amazons, roster changed. Norse, roster changed. Necromantic, roster changed. Khorne, brand new roster. Black Orcs, brand new roster. Imperial Nobility, brand new roster / a change from Bretonia. So actually a lot of the teams that we're seeing now in Blood Bowl are getting tweaks with positionals, tweaks with how they're made up, which makes buying a third party team feel a bit risky. However, if you are in the market for a cool vampire team, there's one on Kickstarter at the moment with 12 days to go. This is the Bloody Nightmares Vampire Fantasy Football team from... I know who this is from. This is from Hogs of War and Pedro Ramos, which is really cool. So as you kind of scroll down, you can see some of the great sculpts that they've gone with. So this is a vampire team. It's got the classic vampire team of thralls and vampires, but they've gone with a Strigoi version for the vampires. So Strigoi is a bloodline from Warhammer Fantasy Battles. You've got the kind of Von Carsteins, which are your classic vampires, and then you've got the Strigoi, which are like the mutated, leaning towards half man, half bat, kind of just the bestial versions, which are really cool. And they've gone in for that. So you've got a bunch of different thralls here that are peasant looking, and then you've got some very cool Strigoi vampires, and these are all hand sculpted. So I mean, we're all looking at a ton of great 3D sculpts at the moment. We'll have a look at those in a bit more detail in a second. But then every now and again you see a really cool, properly old school style green stuff sculpted team, and it's just really interesting to see how it's just cool. And I hope that these are cast in metal for full effect. Okay, so those are all the thralls. You've got the kind of peasant look to them, and then you've got the vampires, and the vampires are just muscly half bat vampire creatures, which befits the Strigoi if you played in Warhammer Fantasy Battle. Oh man, that was the best edition. 6th edition. Vampire counts in 6th edition. Yeah, those were good times. Anyway, the team is 6 vampires, 6 thralls for €58. Really? That's really good. £52 for a 12-man team. Now, when it comes to vampires, you're going to need more thralls than that. I mean, I like the optimism there. There we go. We've got a full team, 17 resin miniatures, 6 Strigoi, 11 servant thralls, including the extra servant exclusive for full team backers, a snot mascot, a ball, and stretch goals as well for £64, which is, I think if you're going to go this route and you are going to pick up a vampire team and you want to go for a Strigoi themed vampire team, then actually the full team for £64 with 17 models is a good way of doing it. And that's the extra guy who's got proper classic things. So this is just Snotling mascot, I guess. Very, very, very cool. And it's nice to see some different teams out there, especially when it comes to like exploring more of vampire subculture. Vortice dropped one a few years ago that had a ton of other stuff. And there's some cool little add-ons there as well for you, because that is how it is done. Now, we've got one more third-party bit of news, which is Fanath. So, can I find the creature? We had a star player drop from Games Workshop. We've just looked at it, and we've just had a look at it, and yeah, it's cool. Withergrass Double Duel. Now, Fanath waste no time at all, and they have dropped the Yersi and Pesty Withergrass Double Duel model. So this is Fanath's take on Withergrass Double Duel, and as you can see, it's got all the same kind of features. You've got that two-headed vibe, you've got the little Ungor horns, you've got the massive tentacle arm, and he's just gone absolutely to town. So Fanath have seen this article drop, have seen this model spoiled, and have sculpted and produced a model in just a matter of days, which is incredible. Now, we talked about this on the podcast the other week. Ben raised the question around, like, what's the impact of third parties being able to release teams and star players so quickly. So Games Workshop drop an article, and before they even hit their shop for pre-order, another company swoops in, does a sculpt of that star player and makes it available. And at €8, it's a very cheap alternative. And this one is, I believe, also available in STL as well. So we should probably grab one and give it a printout to check it out. But there we go. So if you look at if you're in the market for a Withergrass Double Draw and you don't want to wait for the Forge World model, then actually Fanath have got you there. And hey, we had a Fanath delivery the other week with the new Bretonian team. So actually, we know how good their models can be. Okay, it's the first week of the month, which means it is a very heavy Patreon week. So I've got a few choice picks here, and as the month goes on, we'll look at some other ones that have kicked out that I've missed, just to kind of share what's going on. So if you have got a 3D printer, then this is the point to listen. But if you like really good models, then actually we're going to be providing a lot of these on the Bonehead podcast store already. In fact, all of the ones we're going to talk about immediately are already available on the shop, and we've already printed them off, and they're already very, very, very cool models. Anyway, Punger have gone somewhat off-piste. They normally go, let's make a team. What theme should we do? Pirates. Yes, let's do pirates. Everybody like pirates? Yeah, let's do pirates. They didn't do pirates. They went halflings. They've already got a halfling team. It's a pirate-themed halfling team, but it's actually one of my favourites. It's really well executed. But this time they thought, nah, let's do halflings. Let's make them fiery and chaotic and just awesome. And I absolutely love this. We posted it on the channel as soon as their preview dropped. We saw a couple of the models. And this is part one of the Infernal Forks, which is their Chaos Halfling team. And we've got a big demonic engine of a tree man with a big old mace. And actually, we'll look at the model in a minute. And you can see he's got a bunch of skulls and flames inside his chest. It's like a barrel furnace. It is brilliant. And then the release also has 5 line halflings, so 5 of your halfling linemen, and then we've got 2 halfling hefties there as well. That's the corn dude at the top and the Nurgle looking dude in the middle. Now that is part 1, so that's 8 models, and the things we're missing are the catchers. Now if you don't want to hang about, you can definitely pick up this team and mirror it, and you can use old Mask Boy as your catchers, and you've got 2 hefties, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 linemen, and you just mirror them as well, and you've got 8 linemen, 2 catchers, 2 hefties, 2 treemen, 1 mirrored, and your halfling team is there. So if you back them on Patreon, you've got a 3D printer, you can grab that, get hold of the team, and just print it off, and you're good to go. If you don't have that, then actually this is available up on our Etsy and our boneheadpodcast.com/shop as well. I think it's on our eBay too, because these models are awesome, and I don't know, it's just really, 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 really cool. So I look forward to part 2. I tell you what, let's have a quick look at the models themselves. Okay, I have to show off the new Punger release this month as well. So this is the Chaos Flings release part 1, which is a big tree man. Now, this is a chaos themed halfling team. So you got your tree man there, but he's kind of like this caged skull, furnace, chaos tree man. It's perfect. Now, the release comes with 5 chaos halflings and 2 hefties. So the guys with the big helmets, you just see one guy spinning right around now, and then you've got him coming back. So this guy here with the pokey one, you've got the Nurgle hat, you've got the corn hat there, are the first, well, they're the hefties, okay? So they've got the big old helmets. That means that release 2 next month, we'll have another tree man, some more chaos lings, and your catchers. But it's a very cool start. I was not expecting a non-pirate themed team. As you can see, I had a bunch of I've got like a bag of wooden plank bases to show off Punger miniatures, because they tend to go very pirate heavy. So now my Chaos Halfling team are on pirate bases, which is just ironic, isn't it? Anyway, not done. Not even started painting this team up, but I did get it primed, and I really, really, really love it. So you'll see more when I do the print to pitch video later this week, but super impressed with this cool release. Okay, next up is my favorite release this month, which is saying a lot because the Punger team is very cool, but this is our buddy Brute Fun. And we've been looking at these models as the month is going on, and he's been finishing them up and releasing them and showing it. We have got a Squig team, a Night Goblin team. Both of those teams are from the Fumble Secret League, and it also works as a Goblin team. So this is part 1 of the Brute Fun Night Goblin team, and we've got some models that I've printed off and actually painted that we're going to have a look at on the spinny wheel of truth and justice in a second. But this is so cool. I think we showed some of this last week on Stock Up Sunday, and now they're here, I'm even happier. So let's see if we can zoom out and get a better grip of what we've got. So this is your chainsaw guy. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 goblin linemen. There's also a goblin netter. Now the goblin netter works perfectly for an interesting goblin lineman. So 5 goblin linemen really if you're going to go for the classic goblin build, but the netter is also useful if you're using the night goblin roster from Fumble. Go and have a look at that. I think you'll enjoy it. It's pretty fun. We've got a hooligan at the end there who is just off his head on mutated mushrooms, which is awesome. We've got a fanatic here, which is just a goblin hanging on to a squig. The hopper on the far left is a beautiful way to represent the pogo because of the bouncing, right? Makes a lot of sense. You've got a bomber on the left who's just all over the shop with squigs that he's just feeding a potion to and then is throwing, which is genius. And we've got this guy here, which is the Doom Diver, which is your classic flying squig dragging a goblin around. When I say classic, I mean that's never been done before, and that's pretty awesome. Now, this team also comes with a wicked cave troll. Now, not cave troll in the kind of classic sense. This is a cave troll in the case of, like, it looks like a dank hold Troggoth from Age of Sigmar. It is smaller, which is appropriate. We'll have a look at that on a spinny wheel in a second, but it is cool. 2 different versions, one with a hood hat and one without, but it's just an absolute chonky boy. You've got cool squigs hidden everywhere. There's a ton of details. And because this is a squig team, or you can be used as a goblin team and a night goblin team and a squig team, this is what Brute Fun's doing. This is part 1 of 2 parts. There's also a squig. And the squig is very useful if you're running a squig team. But it is basically all there if you want to run him as a goblin team. You've got a lineman, and you've got a chainsaw, you've got a fanatic, you've got a bomber, you've got a pogo, you've got a diver, and you've got an hooligan. You've got all the positionals there, plus a very cool looking troll. So if you are a backer on his Patreon, your team's good to go. With a bit of mirroring, you have a complete full goblin team lineup already from 1 month. And it's just night goblin awesomeness. But we've got these available on the shop already, so if you don't have a printer and you just want a very cool start to a night goblin team, or just a troll, or just some fun secret weapons, or just some goblin linemen, then actually we've got the prints for sale as well. Now this is such a cool team. I've actually painted some models. Let's go to the spinny wheel. There's just something about a spinny plate, isn't there? So I've been working on some models ready for the print to pitch videos this week. This is 2 of those Brute Fun goblins. We've got the netter, which is part of the lineman, but actually the netter's there to be a secret team piece, but will work perfectly well as a goblin lineman. And then we've got one of my favorite sculpts. That is the Doom Diver. So basically it is a flying squig dragging a goblin around, and that goblin is the Doom Diver model, which I absolutely love. Now, I painted a few different models in a few different ways because I thought, why not? I wanted to try a different thing with the pitch, and I just went to town, just throw in some colours. So the paint job is bad, but you can see how cool the models are with not a lot of effort from the paint job. And a few more of the goblins because I couldn't resist. Now, we've got the Squig Hopper, which works beautifully as a pogo. Thank you, printer. We've got a bunch of different goblins doing the circling round. There's the lineman. This guy here is one of the loonies. One of them's got a hood, one of them doesn't. And that guy is your chainsaw squig. So basically, it's a goblin with the squig essentially nailed and tied to a plank of wood, and he's using it as a chainsaw, which I think is genius. Okay, a few more of the goblin team because I couldn't resist. We've got a squig, which doesn't really fit with the goblin team, but is just awesome and will fit beautifully for the squig team rules, which is definitely where you want to be. Got a cool line with the hook. That is your fanatic. Basically, it's a squig with a goblin on a chain, and he's flailing the goblin around, and it's just perfect. It will work beautifully as your fanatic. And then there is one, I haven't quite finished painting these models. This guy here, absolutely armed to the teeth with squig bombs, is going to be your goblin bomber. And the goblin troll. So I haven't even started painting these guys yet. There's one troll that comes with the set, but one of them, there's like an alternative head, which is the hood. Now, I've just been loving these models. These ones came through. Brute Fun finished them up last night, so I printed them overnight. And they are absolutely gorgeous models. For a size comparison, just quickly, we'll chuck a nobility blitzer on there. So they are big, but they are not as just oversized big, but they fit that kind of dank hold cave goblin thing. I mean, there's a ton of detail on there. All of the mushrooms. I'm personally a big fan of the guy with the hood hat, and it's just a really cool troll, and I cannot wait to see Troll 2 next month for the team. Okay, we've got another Patreon to have a look at here. There's only 2 more to look at today, but it is the Amazon team that is dropping from Ogre. Now, these models are a brilliant take on Amazons. The Games Workshop Amazon team, I like the build. The box is good, and it's fine. But the sizing of some of the models, it just doesn't feel quite right to me. So I've been waiting, as you guys will know if you watch the channel, for an Amazon team that, I don't know, hits the spot. I really like the way this is going. And it's got 14 different models in the set. You've got 2 of the blockers, 2 of the blitzers, who are really catchers. You've got 2 throwers with the snakes that you make sense with. And then I think 8 linewomen as well. So it gives you 14 different sculpts. Now, these STLs are going to be dropping tomorrow. So look out for a print to pitch later in the week. I'm really excited to get my hands on these because, 1, I need the models to fill out half of the Heavens College team that we're using for Dungeon Ball at the end of the month, and 2, I'm really eager to get my hands on a cool Amazon team. So that is the Ogre Amazon team. And then this one is very cool. So I have yet to download these models or have a look at them properly, but this is the Torchlight team of the month, and it is a Khans of Tarkir. No, it's not Khans of Tarkir, but it is a Khans of Crush. And it is kind of your Steps Ogre team. You got some fun little goblins, which definitely look similar to the Goblin team. And you've just got these really kind of Torchlight cartoony style Warhammer Fantasy Battle Ogres as an Ogre team. And I think that's really cool as well. So I'm really looking forward to downloading that, getting them printed and doing a print to pitch for that as well, because I think that's really cool. So even though Games Workshop have dropped no new teams, we've got Ogre, Punger, Torchlight, Brute Fun, all dropping amazing new models just this month. Before we wrap up the video, I just want to say that a lot of those new releases we talked about are available on the shop, so if you don't have a 3D printer, you can just get them from us. It's a great way to support the channel and to get your hands on some very cool models. So forgive me for kind of advertising the shop, but I don't know. We get so many people asking like, oh, I love the Punger team, where can I buy it? And actually nowhere does it except us. Or, you know, like, oh, these teams are really cool, but I don't have a 3D printer. I can't afford a 3D printer, but I can afford to buy a team. Well, if you want an Amazon team, it's 30 quid. If you want a Lizardman team, it's 30 quid. If you want some wicked night goblins, they're not very much at all. So it's just a really cool way to share these amazing Blood Bowl models. All right, that's going to wrap up Stock Up Sunday for this week. We've got a cool week coming for the channel, lots of print to pitches, and I think we're looking at some dream teams too. We're kind of getting back into the swing of things now, and we've got some expanded bits. I'm very much looking forward to delving into playing with some Amazons and painting up. I don't know, this is a really good month for models. We've got a cool Kickstarter on the go. Fanath dropped that Star Player Games Workshop. We'll hopefully be dropping some new Blood Bowl soon. There's a lot to keep up with, so I think we've got a good month of hobby. And look, I even painted some stuff already, which I'm really pleased with myself about. Anyway, let me know what you're working on. Let me know what you like coming out this month, and we'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the channel even further, please like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Or come join us on YouTube Members or in Patreon, where you can get exclusive access to some content, some loot, early access to basically everything we do, as well as regular competitions. Or you can pick up some Bonehead Podcast loot either on our website at boneheadpodcast.com. We've got the Dungeon Bowl things, we've got tokens and stuff like that, or on our Spreadshirt site as well. Everything you do just helps us make more content and hopefully do it of better quality. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Happy blocking.